Thank you for tuning in and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be going over the build that I've built on the TBC Alpha that I'll probably be most likely using on my early days raiding as melee going into TBC. This build is extremely simple yet very, very powerful. You only have 2 to 3 main abilities for your actual DPS rotation, allowing you to take a lot more utility skills for your raid than you might otherwise be able to on other builds. Just as a frame of reference for you guys to understand how strong this build can be, in the pre-raid dungeon gear that the TBC Alpha allowed us to play with, I was able to pull about 4k DPS top end using this build. I would imagine if you got the actual best pre-raid gear possible for this build, I'd imagine you could pull about 4.4 to maybe 4.5k DPS heading into the first raid tier of Karazhan. Why don't we go ahead and hearth over to Shattrath? I'll see you guys at the major city, and we'll go over the build when we get there, okay? I'll see you in just a bit. So here we are back in Shattrath. Why don't we go ahead and go over the build in detail so you guys can understand exactly what we're going to be doing going into the TBC launch. So in the talent tree, let's go ahead and go over the core philosophy of this build. So it's a single-minded Fury build. If we read this, it says, while a one-handed weapon is equipped in both hands, your Mortal Strike, Overpower, and Slam will trigger an additional attack with your offhand weapon. Equipping a dagger will cancel this effect. So essentially that turns Mortal Strike, Overpower, and Slam into a pseudo Mutilate. If you're familiar with Mutilate, you stab with both daggers. This one, you're going to be using those abilities to basically hit with both weapons, which basically procs 2 of the same ability. Now this is strictly a Slam build. The reason being is because essentially what it boils down to is incorporating the talents for, let's say, including the Bloodthirst, ignoring armor, this one which increases your damage of Mortal Strike and your Overpower and the crit of your critical chance of your Overpower. Basically what it boils down to is if you use those talent points to buff the global damage of the build, just spamming Slam and doing Cleave over and over ends up doing more damage overall than incorporating the other ones. It seems a little weird, so your rotation is really simple. It's literally one button. It's Slam. That's it. So if you're not one to enjoy one button builds, this might not be for you, but this opens up for anybody who has maybe trouble paying attention to raid mechanics because they're too worried about a rotation, and allows you to pick up other utility spells. So if you're one that likes simple effective builds and allows you to focus more on the fight than fiddling around with like key binding and stuff, this might be the build for you. It's really simple for the talent tree. We're gonna get as much rage as possible, make our poisons do as much damage as possible, and make our slam do as much damage as possible, including cleave into that as well. So in the fury tree, we got 2 points into Unbridled Wrath to generate as much rage as possible, spam as many cleaves as possible. This is based around cleave. You can do heroic strike. I personally just go with cleave because it costs about the same amount of rage. It does a little bit more damage than heroic strike in early gear, and doesn't come with increased threat generated per second, plus gives you some AoE, so I would suggest doing cleave for your alternate rage spender. Since this does damage with both weapons, you want anything that increases dual wield damage, so your offhand damage is a really big damage increase, so any dual wield specialization is really good. We'll pick this one up in the warrior. Shredding blows for 15% armor pen, that's really good for slam because it's all physical. Rampage for the global 3% crit for your raid. Unending fury just for the 15% slam damage there. Over in protection, we got insight for the 12% crit on our cleave. Go over into arms, we have 1 point in deep wounds just to proc the Blood Frenzy and for Hunger for Blood. This increases your melee attack speed, and your deep wounds increases the physical damage caused target by 4%. Improve Slam, this is the base of our build. Reduces the time of your Slam ability by 1 second, increase its damage by 15%. This is really huge. 2 points in Impale for the extra crit damage on warrior abilities, and 1 point into Weapon Mastery. If you're struggling with expertise, which you more than likely will in early game, this will allow you to gain up to 24 expertise in the middle of a fight, so it's really powerful for a 1 point skill investment. Moving over to Shaman, we have Flurry just for extra 15% melee attack speed. The other core part of this build is poisons, so we seek to increase our poison damage as much as possible. Even though you're not going to be combo point generating with abilities, this is still 30% poison damage here, 30% poison damage there, and improve poisons to increase the proc chance of both poisons. We have Hunger for Blood for 5% global damage, which is really sick for 1 point. We've got 2 points here in Murder, so if you look at this, it's all physical and nature damage. 90% of your damage comes from physical and nature damage, so if you look at this just per 2%, it's actually 4% total damage based on that, just because it's, 90% of your damage is physical in nature. So this is a very, very cost-efficient talent to grab. Over in combat, we have the other dual specialization to increase offhand damage by 50%. This one's huge. We're going to grab Hack and Slash, and I will explain why I believe swords is the best way to do it going down in the future. And 3 points in Honor Among Thieves. This will give you global crit, and this is your combo point generator, which you use to generate to use Slice and Dice. Moving over into Protection Paladin, we actually have one-handed specialization. So increase all damage you deal, which is pretty huge. So that's any damage source, physical, nature, fire, which is the essential parts of all of our builds, mostly physical nature. So this is for 1 point, or for 3 points, you're getting 3% global damage. This is a hard deal to pass up. And as far as talents, that's actually all the talents we have spread out. We can go ahead and go over the skill choice of the build. So we have Battle Shout, Cleave, Slam, Berserker Stance. In protection, we don't have anything, and in arms, we don't have anything. I chose not to take charge just because you're going to generate enough rage, and we actually take blink in this build, so you're not going to need more than maybe one gap closer or mobility skill of choice, and blink is typically better. Going over into Shaman, we have Call of the Elements. In enhancement, we pick up Strength of Earth, Wind Fury Totem, Bloodlust for our raids, Totemic Recall, and Cleansing Totem. This is kind of the auxiliary totem. You can put this into Tremor Totem if you need, or over here into Grounding Totem, depending on what the fight needs. But in like SSC and a lot of the places in Heroics, Cleansing Totem is very, very powerful in this expansion. For rogue abilities, we have Slice and Dice. This is your only combo point spender. We have Poisons over here, and we have Kick as well. We picked up Subtlety, or Vanish and Subtlety, just to drop threat basically, and Safe Fall for the reduced damage. Sometimes you get hit in raids and get knocked back, but mostly it's for open world. Over in Paladin, we have Blessing of Kings. Over in Mage, we have Polymorph, Blink, and Invisibility. The reason I picked these is because I believe Blink is still the superior movement skill of choice. If you have to, it can get you out of a lot of sticky situations. Going into TBC, you're going to want a hard CC, and sometimes multiples, especially in some harder heroics. So don't skimp out on utility. Get yourself a CC. It's going to pay off in dividends. So invisibility is kind of the new oh shit button to get out of combat. It used to be Feign Death from the Hunter, but they nerfed the hell out of it in this expansion, which I'm kind of happy about. But this will, if timed right, get you completely out of combat. Granted, you're not around like a stealth detection thing, but if you're fighting a boss, like a raid boss, they're typically not going to have that. So I believe invisibility is the new get out of jail free card for most raids. So pick that one up for yourself. Over in Hunter, we have Aspect of Beast for 4% attack power. Over in Druid, we have Mark of the Wild and Rebirth. I feel that a lot of people don't take Mark of the Wild, but it is still additional stats for your raid and additional armor. And I feel that having a combat res on melee is actually going to be pretty valuable, because then you're not going to have to worry about your healers doing it. And a little bit of loss on your DPS is a lot less impactful than a healer having to stop to battle res someone mid-fight. Okay, so here we are at the altar. I'm going to go ahead and go over the REs that I've used for my testing. I'm going to go over each one and why it's important and which ones are the most important to look out after. So your main business is Slam, Poisons, and Cleave. So those are the ones we're going to want to focus on the most if you can. So the top priority REs are going to be improved poisons. The reason being is because maybe 20 to 25% of your damage is poisons on this build. And I'll explain a little bit how it functions once we actually get into the gameplay demo a little bit later after this section of why it's really important. So in order of importance, you're going to want improved poisons, improved cleave. You're going to want to try to pick yourself a battering ram and envenom. So those four are going to be kind of like your bread and butter. So those ones are really, really important. The reason being is because additional damage targets with poisons while they're bleeding. Pretty much all the time they're going to be bleeding, so there's an additional 5% poison damage there. Improved cleave to increase the damage up to 210% total bonus damage, and then battering ram specifically for the armor pin and applying a stack of sunder. The other ones you want to look for to kind of fill out your build, if you can, Elemental Devastation is really cheeky in this build, I think, is because it says your non-periodic offensive spell crits. That actually counts as your poison, so anytime one of your poisons, your instant poisons specifically crits, you gain 3% crit chance. So this one's insane for melee. Don't sleep on that one. Anything that increases your offhand weapon damage is big, so 5% damage might not seem like a lot, but when slam is, again, about 25 to 30% of your total damage, is a huge RE for that. Vile Poisons, even though we aren't using Envenom in this build, is just 9% poison damage, which is pretty sweet. The other one you want to look for your overall massive amounts of damage, like your maximum, is the legendary Overheating. In my testing over weeks and weeks and weeks, this one by far outshines any other legendary you can get for this build. This is about 11 to 12% of your total damage with this specific setup, so this thing's insane. If you come across this one, save it. It's super good. For quality of life, I chose to put in 2 points of insight to help with just a little bit additional crit chance on your cleave, considering that's another large source of your damage, and then just 1 point in slice and dice, improved slice and dice specifically. This one's really good because it gives you about 3 to 4 seconds after you gain your last combo point through Honor Among Thieves to then use your slice and dice. So it gives you a little bit of that buffer room that you might not otherwise have, and allow you to keep slice and dice up at all times. So we're gonna go ahead and head over to the dummy really quick to give you guys a really quick demo of the build and how it works, okay? So here we are at the dummy, guys. We're gonna go ahead and explain a little bit before we get into this. Pretty much exactly how the build works, how the rotation is. So I have macroed in, let me go ahead and pull up my macros here. I've macroed in a show tooltip slam, cast cleave for my spam button. I personally like it on 4. And then I have mouse wheel up, bound to cleave, just to get a little bit more extra cleaves out. Having 2 buttons actually allows you to do a little more cleaves than just spamming 1 button, which is pretty sweet. I've got my bar set up pretty much how I would want in a raid. I got my buffs over here. I've got my my 2 abilities to get out of combat or drop threat. I've got my Heroism here, or Bloodlust, if you will. And then I've got my 3 combat cooldowns here. Is Slice and Dice, Hunger for Blood, Battle Shout. This build doesn't use anything like Death Wish or Sweeping Strikes or even Blade Flurry. If you want, you can take out Murder. You can take these 2 points out and take out a couple more utility points to pick those up. But I feel like if you're going to be playing with a lot of casters, which I'm assuming you're going to be, there's probably going to be enough AoE going on. You want to try to focus on being a very strong 1 to 2 target, maybe 3 target AoE, and just focus mostly on single targets. So this is for raid boss killing specifically. So the rotation is simple, guys. It's literally spam slam and use slice and dice on cooldown. It's super easy. Let's go ahead and get this started. I'm gonna go ahead and reset my Skada here. Let's go ahead and get into it. So start attacking, get my slam up. Let's go ahead and get a battle shout up. Let's get a Hunger for Blood going. And then you just use slam. Real super easy. So while I'm doing this, I'm using my wheel scroll up to get as many cleaves out as I can. Okay, slice and dice came up. Let's see if we can't get like a nice double slam crit so you guys can see how much damage this actually does. It's pretty nutty. There's a 2.8k, 2.7 plus 1.6. That's about 4.9. Not too bad. Okay, slice and dice again. 2.9, 2.1k. Not bad. You notice how many times this is proccing over here. Look at that, 10 hits, 3 crits with instant poison. That's how many times instant poison procs. The reason it's crazy is because your slam hits with both weapons. So once you reach 5 stacks of deadly poison, it procs automatically your offhand swing, or your offhand poison. So you hit with your main hand, which procs your deadly poison, which then procs your offhand instant poison. But then the offhand slam hit also has a chance to proc instant poison as well on a separate proc chance. So the fact that you can get so many procs is a pretty ludicrous. Oh, I didn't even have my totems down. Oh my god. I am super scuffed. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and do a 5-minute patchwork test. I'm gonna go ahead and speed the footage up so you guys can see at the end just exactly how much damage you can expect in a patchwork scenario. So I'm gonna go ahead and speed the footage up. You guys go ahead and watch through, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Okay. So here's the result, guys. After about 5 minutes, we are able to pull and sustain about 5.9k DPS, given I'm in a full tier 4 gear, but you know, take that with a grain of salt, if you will. That's with using Bloodlust around 2 minutes, so you guys you know exactly what I did, just for clarity purposes, just so you guys can understand why I got the number I did. It's pretty insane, man. I'm actually really excited to see what this build scales into, given like tier 5 gear and tier 6 gear. I'd imagine once you get yourself, you know, up into Black Temple, get yourself some Warglaves, I think this build is going to be pretty goddamn strong going into TBC. So look out for it. I'm going to be definitely playing it. I'm going to be streaming it more and more when I have time from work. I will leave a link down in the description of the video to my Twitch page if you want to catch me live there. I'll be streaming over there. If I can, Wednesdays and Thursdays. If not, I will put a schedule up there so you guys can know exactly when I'm going live. I will, I'll see you guys on the battlefield. I can't wait for TBC to launch. You guys enjoy the rest of your night. Have fun with the launch, and I will see you out there. Enjoy the rest of your night, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.